Hi all. This video will introduce another of the Aural Skills tools, the Rhythm Generator. This is a versatile app for rhythm sight reading and dictation practice, as it lets you choose which rhythm figures you want to work with, can create 1 or 2-part rhythms, and represents the rhythm in notation, syllables, and graphic tracking. We're just going to look at the basics in this video. We'll get into more complex features in subsequent videos. To generate rhythms, we need to start by choosing 2 things. First, let's pick a meter from the meter menu. If we pick a compound meter like 6/8, note that the pattern selection box changes with a new set of figures. For now, I'll use 4/4 and work with simple meters. I next need to choose which specific patterns I want to potentially include in my rhythm. This is one area where the Rhythm Generator differs from a lot of other rhythm practice tools. Rather than choosing which durations you want to include, you pick the 1-beat patterns that might be included. This lets us focus on specific ideas as they're introduced in a class. I want to keep things very simple for now, so I'll click the Turn All Off button, then pick just a few of the most basic rhythm figures. I can vary the length of the exercise, but I'll keep it as a 2-bar rhythm for now. You might also want to change the instrument. It uses a piano sound by default, but feel free to change it to something unpitched or whatever suits your fancy. Before I generate an exercise, we need to introduce another tool. Several of the Aural Skills tools use a metronome like this one, so let's check it out a bit. You shouldn't need to adjust the beats per bar, as that's set by your meter choice. But you can adjust the tempo in 3 different ways. You can click the box at the tempo you prefer, which is handy if you aren't sure what the tempo would be in beats per minute. You can also use the tempo slider, but note that in the Rhythm Generator, you can click and drag to select a tempo range instead of picking a single tempo by just clicking. The tempo range is good for dictation practice, as it randomly chooses a tempo in that range every time the exercise is played. That can make things a little trickier, but it can also make us stronger at determining tempo and subdivisions quickly. You can also click and drag the beats per minute number itself. Note that this allows us to choose more extreme durations than the slider includes. The last setting to point out is the Count Off Before Playing toggle. You'll probably want to leave this on most of the time. This turns the metronome on for 1 bar before the rhythm is played, then turns the metronome's sound off as the rhythm begins. Okay, I've picked my meter, figures, and tempo, so I'm finally ready to try a dictation exercise. As in all the Aural Skills tools, I can click Generate or hit the spacebar to begin. Note that the rhythm is automatically hidden when it's generated, whether the hider was on before or not. I can replay this rhythm with the return key or clicking play, but let's jump to checking my answers. Clicking the hider reveals the score. If I want to see the rhythm syllables, I can click the Add Syllables button. If I want to see the modified stem graphic tracking representation of the rhythm, I can click the box at the bottom. But note that this will only show up to the first 16 beats of rhythm. Can't have everything. Last thing in this long video. If I want to practice rhythm sight reading instead of dictation, I just need to switch modes. This disables the hider, autoplay, and count-off features, since you don't need them when generating reading exercises. Everything else is the same. I can still add syllables, play it back, or adjust the tempo as before. That's plenty for now. We'll get into some of the more advanced features in another video. Thanks for watching, and happy practicing.